And we're back. We're on again. Welcome to Friday, everybody. We've made it through another week, and that's something to be thankful for. It's Friday. We get a weekend. And for people who are working at home, that is probably a challenge to kind of make the transition from working at home to having the weekend at home. Not really much of a change of location for people, but it's better than having to work constantly, I guess. I don't know. Not really. I'm just vamping here, just trying to make it sound better. But anyway, today our reading for the day was Psalm 130. It's been on Psalm 130 has been the Old Testament, well, the Psalter reading, I should put it that way, for the past 3 days. Ezekiel 33, 10 through 16, and then Revelation 11, 15 through 19. And today I'm going to focus more on Psalm 130. I kind of addressed it a little bit in the context of something else, but today I want to talk about Psalm 130. And the word that came to mind when I read this was the term covered up. And you hear people talk about all the time about they're just covered up. Especially talking about people working at home, when they talk about all the work they've got to do, because the transition is hard for a lot of people. It's not working at home in a lot of instances, depending on what your job is, doesn't facilitate things as well, and so things don't move as smoothly. It's harder to get stuff done. Communications don't work as effectively. The stuff you normally have just access to, get up and walk down the hall for, walk across the room for, that you need at your office or wherever, suddenly isn't there, and so you just get covered up. And for people that don't have the benefit of being able to work at home, if they're on reduced shifts or things like that, where their employer's trying to make the best of things, they get in there and they might find that everything that they had to do is behind now, and they're covered up. It's just one of those things where it seems, when you get covered up, it seems like if it's not one thing, it's another. But that's how it is. Life happens, and we get covered up. You get buried under circumstances, and you get caught at the bottom of a pit, and it can feel like you get caught at the bottom of a pit, and sometimes it just seems like you can't climb out. And sometimes it's not our fault. Sometimes we really, not just beyond being busy and not being able to play catch up with our work, but sometimes we do get caught at the bottom of these pits. And sometimes it's not our fault. It's not really anybody's fault. We live in a really big, complicated world where lots of things happen. Lots of things happen together, and one thing leads to another, and it's not really anybody's fault. It's just the way things are. And in those moments, it's probably a waste of time to sit back and try to assign blame, and to why is it we're in this hole? Why is it that we're covered up? Why is it that all this is happening? Well, we don't know. We'll probably know in years to come the hows and the whys and the wherefores of what happened, but at times like that, there's not a whole lot of point in sitting back and assigning blame, especially if it's a bad hole that we're in, that we're really covered up by. You're better off to spend your time and your energy working towards what is good, working for what is good for you and for everyone involved. There's not much point spinning your wheels, assigning blame. It's not going to get you out of the hole any faster. So sometimes we get covered up, we get into a pit, we get caught up in the depths, and it's not really anybody's fault. But then sometimes it is. Sometimes it is our fault. Sometimes we're stuck in the depths because we dug the hole. We're really good at digging holes, and sometimes the worst thing is we don't really know we're digging the holes. We just dig them faster and deeper. And there's a really good quote from a guy named Will Rogers. Some of you probably have heard that name. If you haven't, you should look him up. He said a lot of really funny, really smart things. But the big quote that's ascribed to him when it talks about digging ourselves into holes and getting covered up and finding ourselves in the depths, he says, if you find yourself in a hole, the first thing to do is stop digging. And that's generally good advice. Sometimes, like I said, we get ourselves covered up. We don't understand that we've dug the hole ourselves. And then one day we wake up, we look around, we realize we're kind of in the depths. We're in this pit that we dug ourselves. And that's the time where you need to look and realize that you've got the shovel in your hand and that you probably need to just put it down and stop digging. The psalmist would add to that. The psalmist would probably say, at the time you realize that you've dug yourself into a hole, that you're caught up in the depths, that's probably the time you need to call out for help. And that brings me to Psalm 130. And I'll go ahead and read that again. Read it yesterday, but I'll read it again because it doesn't hurt. It starts with verse 1. It says, "Out of the depths I cry to you, Lord. Lord, hear my voice. Let your ears be attentive to my cry for mercy. If you, Lord, kept a record of sins, Lord, who could stand? But with you there is forgiveness, so that we can with reverence serve you. I wait for the Lord. My whole being waits, and in his word I put my hope. I wait for the Lord. More than the watchmen wait for the morning. More than the watchmen wait for the morning. Israel, put your hope in the Lord, for with the Lord is unfailing love, and with him is full redemption. He himself will redeem Israel from all their sins." If you notice, your Bible might have this. Most often they do. I don't know that I've ever really seen one that doesn't have this little title, this superscription at the start of the psalm. But you'll notice it says a song of ascents. And that is literally means a song of going up. It was a pilgrim song. So what we think we understand, if you go and you look at what all the real Bible scholars, I'm not a Bible scholar, I just have a lot of books. But if you look at the real Bible scholars, what they say is this is probably a song that pilgrims would sing on their way to Jerusalem for the different festivals. Probably sang it as they're literally climbing the hill up to the Temple Mount. And in some cases, you see where it could literally be that they're mounting the steps to the temple, to the actual place of worship. So it's a song of ascent. It's a pilgrim song. It's a song of transition. When you're caught in the hole, when you realize you've covered up, when you realize you've covered yourself up, you realize that you need to make a change. The psalmist says that's when you need to call out to the Lord from the depths and cry out and take hope and faith in his mercy, like we talked about yesterday, to keep hope in the fact that he is kind of, as we see elsewhere, strong to forgive, so that that he will come and that you can rest your hope in him. You realize that you need to make a change. You need to move away from the place you are, and you need to move to someplace else. You need to move to someplace better, someplace different. So you sing this song of journey. You sing this song that calls out to the depths to the Lord and takes hope and claims his forgiveness and his mercy. It means that you're ready to leave one world behind and move on to another world. So, if you're feeling pretty covered up, realize that a lot of the depths that we find ourselves in right now aren't necessarily your fault, my fault, anybody's fault. It's just the world happens, and sometimes the world happens in ways that we don't really care to experience. But there's nothing you can really do about it, except call to the Lord and trust in his faithfulness and his mercy. But if you're also in a place where you're realizing that you're covered up, that you kind of dug yourself into a hole that you can't really get out of, and you're ready to take responsibility for that, the psalmist is saying this song's for you. This is your song of ascent. This is your song of pilgrimage and journeying as you get ready to leave behind this one world that you have learned to experience, that you've created, and move on to one that God is pioneering and leading you to. So anyway, that's this quick little message on Psalm 130. Probably going to take the next 2 days off, Saturday and Sunday, but we will be back Monday, hopefully. And I'm going to boop you on your nose.